Some places are remembered because of what happened there. Others are remembered because of what never should have happened at all. And then there are places like Santa Eulalia, a place that was supposed to protect children, a place that promised safety, care, and God's mercy, but instead became a silent factory of fear, obedience, and disappearance. Before this story ends, you will understand why no official records agree on what really happened there, why former staff members refused to speak for decades, and why the number 93 still makes survivors stop mid-sentence when they try to explain their childhood. This is not a story about monsters hiding in the dark. This is a story about kindness used as a weapon, about charity that demanded silence, and about children who learned far too early that obedience was the only way to survive. In the late 1940s, just outside a quiet European town, the Santa Eulalia Orphanage stood behind iron gates and tall stone walls. From the outside, it looked peaceful, clean, orderly, a place many parents believed was a blessing. The church described it as a sanctuary for unwanted children, orphans of war, illness, or poverty. According to official pamphlets, the children there were fed, educated, and raised under strict moral guidance. But what those pamphlets never showed were the locked doors inside, the bells that controlled every movement, and the rule that mattered more than all others combined: never speak without permission. Inside Santa Eulalia lived 93 children. Some were left as infants. Others arrived old enough to remember their parents' faces. By the time most of them learned to read, they had already learned something more important. Silence keeps you alive. The days followed a rigid pattern. Wake up before sunrise, cold water on the face, prayer, breakfast eaten in complete quiet. Even coughing could earn punishment. The staff believed silence built discipline, but what it truly built was fear. At Night Archives, we study stories where time itself feels corrupted, and Santa Eulalia is one of those places where years did not pass normally. Children aged faster on the inside. They learned how to watch everything and trust nothing. Punishments were never explained. A child could be taken away for smiling at the wrong moment, or for asking when they would be adopted, or simply for being noticed. The older children learned to lower their eyes whenever footsteps approached. The younger ones learned by watching them. There was a room they called the reflection chamber. No windows, no furniture, just a small kneeling mat and a crucifix on the wall. Children were sent there for moral correction. Some stayed for hours. Others stayed overnight. No one was allowed to ask what happened inside. One survivor later said the worst part was not the darkness. It was the silence. Because silence leaves room for imagination, and imagination can be more cruel than any punishment. By the early 1950s, rumors began circulating in nearby villages. Supplies delivered to the orphanage were larger than expected, more food than the number of children required. Yet local doctors noticed something disturbing. The children who occasionally appeared in public looked thin, nervous, older than their age, but the church had authority. Questioning them meant questioning God, at least in the eyes of the town. So the rumors faded into whispers, and the gates stayed closed. What happened to the 93 children was not sudden. It was slow, organized, hidden behind routine. Children were separated by age and potential. Those who showed obedience were rewarded with slightly warmer meals. Those who asked questions were isolated. Some children were chosen for special duties, cleaning private rooms, assisting visiting clergy. These children learned another rule very quickly. What happens here does not exist outside these walls. If you're finding this story unsettling, take a moment to pause. And if you feel this kind of deep storytelling matters, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Night Archives. It helps keep these forgotten stories alive, and it helps this channel reach people who are ready to listen. As years passed, the number of children inside Santa Eulalia slowly decreased, but no adoption records matched the disappearances. Some names simply stopped appearing on daily logs. When questioned later, staff claimed those children were transferred. But transferred where? No documents ever confirmed it. One former caretaker, speaking anonymously decades later, described seeing a child's bed removed overnight. No announcement. No explanation. By morning, the space was neatly cleaned, as if the child had never existed at all. The children noticed. They counted each other. They remembered who slept where. They knew the number was shrinking, and they knew better than to ask why. At night, whispers traveled through the dormitories. Stories passed from bed to bed about children taken to the basement, about prayers that never ended, about children who cried until they no longer could. One girl, now elderly, recalled that she stopped dreaming entirely while living there. She said dreaming felt dangerous, as if her mind was trying to escape somewhere her body could not follow. By the time authorities finally investigated Santa Eulalia in the late 1960s, the orphanage was nearly empty. Only a handful of children remained. The church claimed declining need, changing times, modern reforms. The inspection found nothing illegal on paper. Clean rooms, proper records, cooperative staff. But something was off. Inspectors noted how children flinched at raised voices, how they avoided eye contact, how none of them spoke freely, even when told they were safe. Santa Eulalia closed quietly the following year. No press conference, no apology. The building was sold, then abandoned. Nature slowly reclaimed it. Vines crept over stone. Windows shattered. The bells stopped ringing. But the story didn't end there. Years later, Historians attempting to reconstruct the orphanage's past noticed something chilling. Across multiple decades, exactly 93 children were recorded as residents. The number never increased. It only decreased, as if replacements were never allowed, as if the institution was designed for a fixed number from the beginning. Former residents were difficult to locate. Many refused interviews. Others had changed their names. A few spoke briefly, then stopped responding entirely. Trauma has a way of teaching silence long after danger has passed. At Night Archives, we've seen this pattern before. Institutions that rely on moral authority often leave the deepest scars, because victims are taught that suffering is holy, that endurance is virtue, and that speaking out is sin. One final testimony came from a man who had been 6 years old when he entered Santa Eulalia. He said the staff never called them children. They called them souls. Souls to be corrected, shaped, broken if necessary. He remembered one phrase repeated often: pain removes impurity. And for decades, he believed it. The true fate of all 93 children remains unknown. Some survived. Some vanished into unmarked graves. Some lived, but never truly escaped. The Church has never officially acknowledged wrongdoing at Santa Eulalia. Records remain sealed, responsibility diluted by time. But memory has a way of surviving where paperwork fails. And tonight, as you listen to this story, those 93 voices are no longer silent. If this story stayed with you, if it made you pause or think or feel something uncomfortable, I want you to share it. Stories like this survive only when people carry them forward. Leave a comment below and tell us what part affected you the most, or if you've heard of similar places where charity hid cruelty. And if you believe these stories deserve to be remembered, share this video so others can hear what was buried for so long. This is Night Archives, and some histories refuse to stay forgotten.